Hello, I'm with my cat. I don't know if I'll ever upload this, if I ever do. Look at my cat. I don't know what. Well, it's my roommate's cat, but look at my cat. She's just here. I just rewatched, a video that is the most viewed video on my channel. And it was, oh shit, do not touch my laptop. So basically, I made this video when I was 13, the non-binary video, the most viewed video on my channel. I made that when I was 13. I was in middle school, and that was when I just figured out I was trans. I thought I was non-binary at the time. I am trans. I'm over a year on testosterone now. I moved cities. I don't have the most accepting parents, but, I will be honest, that video, I'm not sure if you can tell, I just rewatched it, despite how low quality it is, and you can see, like, the Bandicam in there, it doesn't fail to make me cry. I'm not sure if you can hear the shakiness in my voice a little bit when I say that, but, obviously being trans, like, changed my entire life. I was already a really strange kid, and figuring out this not only made me the weird kid, it basically turned me from a weird kid into an even weirder kid, you know, because I was the trans kid now, you know, which, thankfully, after I made that video, COVID hit. I transitioned during COVID. I cut my hair. I didn't legally change my name because my parents weren't very accepting at the time, but, I went to a school that at least was very accepting and was willing to call trans kids by the names they want to be called, you know? So basically, even in the yearbook, I at least had accepting enough parents where they let me have a different name in the yearbook. So besides, I think, my freshman year, my name was my legal name. And I basically don't exist, or at least, my dead name, the girl that I used to be doesn't exist anymore. And it's very nice. No one, I went to a big enough school, like a high school, where no one remembered who I was. So once I transitioned, who I am now who I was before basically didn't exist. Besides in the people that were close to me or were friends with me at some point, and my family. And, I'm very grateful for that. And it's also sparked a lot of conversations between people who know me now. And I'm like, yeah, I'm trans, by the way. And they're like, no. You know, I find it really funny. But seeing that video now, it still really hits close to home. Because I used to be, at the time I was a Calvin Garrett kid, so you would imagine how my thought processes were about being trans. But since I've grown up, I don't like being trans, I'll say that. I wish I was cis every single day. Whether it was as a cis man or a cis woman, it would just make my life so much easier. And I still don't understand people who are like, I would always be trans, I would never choose to be cis in any capacity. Kudos to them. I can't. I can't. But, I kind of try to manifest that in ways where I at least advocate for, trans people. And in America right now, trans people are very targeted across the U.S. There's been, if I remember correctly, there's been over 1,000 bills at least introduced in the U.S. that target trans people, and some of them are even labeled in very ridiculous bills or hidden in others, such as the SAVE Act, which a lot of the bills that are being passed by this administration kind of stick a whole bunch of bills into one. So the SAVE Act also bans gender affirming care for minors, whether that's social, medical, all of that sort. And also there are others that, if I remember correctly, there was at least one introduced in, I think, Texas, which was against strippers in schools. And the person couldn't name a single instance where that was the case. But if you look at the bill, sex ed, and there is mentions of transitioning and gender dysphoria being labeled as sexual. Stuff like that has been really hard on me. I can only imagine how it is on trans women, since trans women are the main targets. And all I can say is transitioning saved my life. This is gonna get a little personal and why this video impacts me so much, but I started medically transitioning late February of 2025, like medically. Before that, I tried getting on immediately after I turned 18. There were some complications. I went to the hospital, had some big bills. It was all my fault. I did something wrong. I won't get into that here, but I basically had given up until two roommates of mine that I moved in with by late 2024 had convinced me to at least get a script before hormone replacement therapy, HRT, became criminalized. And they encouraged me to take shots and be my emotional support for the first couple until I could do it on my own, which I'm so thankful for. Okay, you are too close to my little... Look at her. She's oh so tired. This is my roommate's cat, but she's in love with me. She's attached to me by the hip when my roommate's gone, but that's not what I'm saying. And before transitioning, I was utterly miserable. I hated myself so much that I would put myself through isolation and self-fulfilling prophecies about myself because I hated myself so much, and I didn't think I deserved friends or happiness in any capacity. I hurt a lot of people. And obviously I'm not saying, like, oh, excuse my behavior. No, I'm just explaining it right now. Dysphoria can manifest itself in many different ways. Since transitioning and also moving cities to where more stuff happens, I've been a lot happier. Transitioning has saved my life immensely. I was on the verge of losing my job right before I graduated from high school in 2024 because of how bad my periods were, which, keep in mind, I probably should have went to the doctor for. I come from an anti-vax household that hasn't gone to the doctor since like 2016. So, it was a life-changing experience to go from such debilitating menstrual cycles where I am hunched over, I'm stuck in the bathroom in front of a toilet throwing up multiple times and genuinely, like, trying to breathe, making sure I don't pass out with a heating pad on my bathroom floor, you know? Like, I don't deal with that anymore, and that also encourages me to do my shots, because I'll be honest, I accidentally detransitioned for a month, and the cramps started coming back, and I was like, and I also had a job where I had health insurance, which helped me pay for my testosterone. I don't want to imagine what that is now since I lost it in October, and I have a lab in about 2 months. I don't want to imagine what that price is going to be, but it's coming out of my savings if I can get at least a little more until I can get health insurance. But transitioning saved my life. I watched people transition, and it saved their lives too. And I don't think I could change it for the world. And I wish a lot more people understood that transitioning saves lives, compared to what a lot of the media says right now, and scapegoating trans people and immigrants for issues when the issues don't exist, or they're so small that you can only name a handful of cases, which really does suck. Because I want a future. I don't want to die anymore, but with the current state of how everything is, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to live, you know? Like, I might be alive, but I don't think I'll be living, if that makes sense. And I remember when I first released the non-binary video, there were so many comments about how it hit so close to home, and how they understood, and how they were dealing with unaccepting family, and how they couldn't transition or even get a haircut, you know? And I remember even at the time, I was kind of distraught, you know? Because, like, I at least dealt with parents who kind of shut their mouth and let me do my own thing. At some point, they just stopped caring once I turned 16, I'm not gonna lie, about everything, really. And I think at some point they kind of accepted this is not gonna change, at least not for a good while. But there are a lot of people, especially younger people, who don't have family like that, and it's only getting worse. I knew a guy in high school who had helicopter parents, and they had, actually, no, I knew this one person, that I didn't really know them all that well, but I dated their boyfriend for a bit in high school. Bad relationship, but regardless, they were taken out of my big high school because of LGBTQ influence, or indoctrination, I guess, and put in a very smaller school that doesn't accept their trans students. I knew plenty of other trans kids who talked about how they couldn't get even a shorter haircut or they wouldn't allow their friends to stay over. They completely isolated their kids. Keep in mind, like, their 17-year-old couldn't go to a friend's house without knowing the parents, or, like, having their location at all times, or having to be home and being strict about everything and watching over their social media. Like, it was like, when you're younger, I guess, but once you start getting to almost legal age, it starts getting ridiculous, and your kid isn't truly living. And I get there are some, like, other reasons as to why some parents would do that, and I understand, but also it gets a little scary. And this is getting a little long and I'm rambling, but my senior year of high school, I made a little small comic for a final for my multicultural literature English class. We read a book, and then we had to make a project revolving it in some way. And the one example that I saw, I read Mouse, about the Holocaust specifically. You know, I at least read the first one. That one was great. I love the symbolism. And one of the examples for like past classes was about trans people. So I decided to make one about trans people. When it came to one-on-one conferencing and grading, one of the teachers pulled me aside. She read it, and I had to hug her while she cried on my shoulder. Because it was that impactful. And she complained to me about how she just wants to make a safe space for these kids. She's not trying to indoctrinate, like the common argument about LGBTQ acceptance in schools is that they're indoctrinating the kids, when the teachers just want to make a safe space for these kids because they're abused at home, they can't be their true selves, and they want these kids to have a place where they can truly be themselves, where they cannot. And that she also had a 12-year-old daughter at the time who came out to her as bisexual. And at the time, keep in mind, it was like early 2024, she told me about how, like, she loves her daughter and accepts her daughter, but she is so afraid for her kid with how the world is going right now with queer people in general. And I think about that a lot because I didn't like that teacher that much. She was really annoying. She pissed me off a lot. But the same teacher I hated was crying on my shoulder for comfort because of something I made about my experience, about how I feel hopeless about being trans. How some, like, 500 bills were introduced in 2022. There was at least, like, 15 trans people who were killed, and more are getting killed, and how I was against guns, but I had one because I feared every day I lived would be my last, and I felt hopeless. And it ended with a panel of me killing myself around a bunch of candles, with the same gun. You know, like, I can get how that's very impactful, and I think that is, it's something I live, a lot of people live. Sorry, someone wants to lay on my computer. Look at her. You know, we kind of look alike. Yeah, you want to lay back down. You're tired. It's something I live through every single day, and it's only getting worse, and I can only imagine how she may feel, even though she's a cis woman in her late 30s, early 40s. And a lot of teachers really did find that very impactful. Because that's just a life I live. Which is why, despite how much I hate being trans, I try to be, like, okay, you didn't have to lift your legs, but that's fine. Like, despite everything, I'm still like, despite how much I hate it, I want to be an advocate, not only for just trans people as a whole, but also trans kids. Like, I was once a trans kid. I saw, there were a lot of trans men or trans masks at my school who couldn't even get a haircut. I was able to use the men's locker room my sophomore year of high school, and suddenly in my junior year, they had to stop. I wasn't allowed to change at all, because parents were suing other schools for the very same reason. I had the GSA leader say out loud with full confidence that she's glad that things like this are happening so more people could have their eyes on us and support us. This was in, like, late 22, by the way, when the trans panic was first becoming popular and Elon took over Twitter. You can imagine how that went. Yeah. And the one thing I can only hope for the near future is that trans people, because it's not just a US thing, it's a global thing, that we're as a scapegoat. I can only hope globally that someday we will be more accepted than we are. And we can live all prosperously, life, liberty, and happiness, as who we are. And I can only hope that the stuff I make, or did make at least, I've been not motivated and busy, I can only hope that the stuff I made and will make impacts trans people and reaches trans people and can hopefully make them go out and make change, or make them live a bit more, that they're not the only ones who feel that way, because I feel hopeless quite a bit. Not because of my dysphoria is almost gone at this point, but to, like, I don't even know what I was talking about. This girl's biting my fingers. I might end this off because it's getting a little long, but look at her. Biting my fingers a little bit. She's also been making me the happiest man alive right now. She's like 11 weeks. And my roommate, who does own her, works a full-time job. I'm a full-time student, part-timer, part-time employed right now, and then my other roommate that's usually here is always cooped up in his room, for whatever reason. I don't know if it's classes, or if he just doesn't like us that much. He used to come out more, but I'm the only one who hangs out with her, so she loves me. Oh, she's gripping me so tight. Oh. She scratches me, though. She's a little evil. Evil bastard. I'm sorry this was so long. I've seen videos just talking to a camera. I thought maybe I could. This is also a thing that's been on my mind for years now. The video I made impacted so many people, and I can only hope that life gets better for trans people as a whole, adults and youth alike, and the elderly, I originally thought I wouldn't live that long, but I would hope to see myself in an older age, you know, like, as a trans person, you know? It would be really nice. I'd like to fulfill my dreams, you know? And I can only hope that the world gets better for us. I'm gonna end it off with another view of my cat. That's what I mean. She's stretching her little feeties. But yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry I look so greasy. I need to shower so bad. And it's warm in my room. It's why I'm so greasy. But